Hello buddies, welcome to our channel. So in the previous video we had discussed regarding the control and coordination in animals. So now in this video we will go with the coordination in plants. So if you haven't gone through the coordination in animals video, go through the link will be in the description, and please go and go to the introduction and guidelines video for how to follow these sessions, and adjust the brightness of the screen so that your eyes won't be troubled, as this is an entire screen display. Okay, let's start. Control coordination in plants. So animals have a nervous system for controlling and coordinating the activities of the body, but plants have neither a nervous system nor muscles. So it means that plants don't have muscles nor the nervous system to move their body or to control their body parts and coordinate them. So how do they respond to stimuli? When we touch the leaves of touch me not plant, okay, this is chuimui, the sensitive or touch me not plant, okay, a plant of mimosa family. So mimosa is the botanical classification of this plant. So family, they begin to fold up and droop. So when you touch the leaves, or when you just tap at the touch me not plant leaves or its branches, and they will be folding and dropping down. Okay, when a seed germinates, the roots goes down, the stem comes up into the air. What happens? Firstly, the leaves of the sensitive plant move very quickly in response to the touch. So what happens in this case? The leaves of the sensitive plant or the touch me not plant will be responding to the stimuli, isn't it? They will be responding very quickly to the touch or the stimuli that we provided from the external environment. There is no growth involved in this movement. So in this case of the touch me not plant, the folding and drooping of the leaves does not include any growth. On the other hand, the directional movement of a seedling is caused by the growth. Okay, so what is involved for the growth? The directional movement. So in animals, just like running, swimming, or responding to an heat or cold, it is not related to the growth of the body of the animal. Okay, but it is as per the protection or for the defense or for the alertness of the animal. But in case of plants, we also have directional movement of a seedling, means so the roots of the seedling will be growing down to the soil, and why the shoot will be coming into the air, why doesn't it also enter into the soil, is the question here. Okay, so the growth of the plant is associated with the, sorry, the directional movement of the plant or the seedling is associated with its growth. So if it is prevented from growing, it will not show any movement. So if the plant seedling does not grow, it does not show any movement. But in the case of animals, this does not happen, isn't it? So in the case of animals, the movement is completely independent from that of the growth of the body. Okay, continue. So plants show two different types of movement. Okay, so how many types of movements are shown by plants? Plants show two different types of movements. So one is dependent on the growth. Okay, one type of movement of the plant is dependent upon the growth, and the other is independent of the growth. So just like we discussed here, so what example can we give for growth dependent movement? So growth of an seedling, and growth independent movement can be given by the touch me not response to the touch. Okay, so what is the immediate response to stimulus? So let us see, let us think about the first kind of movement, which is uh, growth independent, such as that of the sensitive plant. Since no growth is involved in this type of movement, so what is that? No growth is involved. The plant must actually move its leaves in response to the touch. So as no growth is involved, the plant will be moving its leaves in response to the touch. But there is no nervous tissue. Yes, animals, they will be moving, or the movement in animals is because of and specialized tissue, nervous tissue, isn't it, or the nervous system. But in case of plants, there is no such nervous system, or plants doesn't have any muscle tissue for the movement of the body parts. Then how do these movements in plants are carried out? How does the plant detect touch, and how do the leaves move in response to this stimuli? Okay, so this is the picture. So this is before touching. Okay, this image is before touching, and this is after touching. So the leaves are folded, and the this branch will be dropped down from this point of attachment to the stem. Okay, so if we think about where exactly the plant is touched and what part of the plant actually moves, it is apparent that movement happens at a point different from the point of touch, isn't it? So the same case here, observe the diagram here, figure here. So this is the, for example, you touched at the tip of this whole compound leaf. So these are the little ones are called leaflets, and this is an example for compound leaf which consists of several small leaves in it. Okay, so when you touch the tip of this leaf, so the dropping and the folding of the leaves will occur at the veins. So veins, at this point of veins, the leaves are folded, and at the point of this attachment to the stem or the axis point, and the dropping of this entire leaf will be happening. But where you touched, it is at the point of this tip, but the way the movement is happening, it is at the point of attachment to the stem. So the response location is different, and from that of the sensing location is different. So why this is so and why this movement is happening, let us see. Okay, so information that a touch has occurred must be communicated. So as the point of response and point of action are different, the information must be communicated. The plants also use electrical chemical means to convey this information from cell to cell, but unlike in animals, there is no specialized tissue in plants for the conduction of information. So plants also have the mechanism for conduction of information or electrical and chemical signals from one part to the another part, but they doesn't have any specialized tissue. So that's the only difference. Even plants do conduct information either in electrical signals or in the form of chemical signals, but there is a major difference that plants do not have any nervous tissue or the nervous system for their coordination. Okay, finally, again, as in animals, some cells must change shape in order for movement to happen. So in plants also, we need a change in the shape of the cells for the movement to happen. So just like in the case of animals, the muscle cells will be rearranged or the shape will be changed for making a muscular movement, isn't it? So instead of the specialized proteins found in animal muscle cells, plant cells change shape by changing the amount of water in them. Yes, plant cells change shape by changing the amount of water in them. So this is the case happens in guard cells also, isn't it? So when water enters into the guard cells, the stomata will be open, and the water is drained out of the guard cells, stomata is closed. So the same case happens there, and the same case happens here too. So the plant cellular movements or the movement of the plant body parts will be based upon the amount of water that is present in them. Okay, so resulting in, so if the water enters into the cell, it will be swelling, and if water is drained out of the cell, it will lead to shrinkage of the cell, and therefore in changing the shapes. Okay, the clear cut effect can be seen in case of stomata. When the cells, guard cells are swelling, what will happen? The stomata will be open, and the guard cells shrink. What happens? The stomata is closed. So it is very evident the change in the amount of water in the cell is causing to the change in the shapes of the cells. Okay, now let us see what type of movements are caused due to growth. So previously we saw here that growth independent movements. Okay, and now here we are going to discuss about growth dependent movements. Okay, some plants like pea plant, okay, some plants like pea plant or any other soft stemmed, just like climbers or twinners, okay, climb up other plants or fences by means of tendrils, isn't it? So plant use tendrils for coiling around them or twisting around and hard support for their movement or for the growth, isn't it? These tendrils are sensitive to touch. So the plant tendrils are sensitive to touch. Not only pea plants, you can observe in case of any soft stemmed plants. Okay, bottle gourd, bitter gourd, snake gourd, and other types of beans. Okay, these are all have tendrils, and these tendrils are sensitive to touch. Okay, when they come in contact with any support, the part of the tendril in contact with the object does not grow as rapidly as part of the tendril away from the object. Okay, so the part of the tendril which is only contact with the hard support, only it will be growing faster. The remaining parts, they doesn't grow faster when compared with this part that is in contact. Okay, and this causes the tendril to circle around the object and thus cling to it. Okay, so you might have observed the soft stemmed day tendrils are coiling around the hard support, isn't it? So this is for the sake of the plant to climb, as the stems are soft and they can't stand erect or stiff. So these plants need support. So the tendrils are the means by which these plants going to acquire some support and they are able to stand erect. Okay. More commonly, plants respond to stimuli slowly by growing in a particular direction. Yes, exactly. Almost all the movements that are seen in a plant are slow. Okay, animals can show fast and quick responses, but plants need to show slow responses, isn't it? If you water if you won't water a plant for 2 to 3 days, it doesn't dry up rapidly, isn't it? It takes some time, and when you add water to the plant to recover, even it takes 2 to 3 hours to recover. So entire plant flowing of the material inside the plant body, the plant cellular growth, they are all relatively slower when compared to that of the animal's physiology. Okay. More commonly, plants respond to stimuli slowly by growing in a particular direction. Because this growth is directional, it appears as if plant is moving. Okay, it appears as if plant is moving in a particular direction. Okay, let us understand this type of movement with the help of an example. Okay, so let us see this activity. So fill a conical flask with water. Okay, so you need to take a conical flask and fill it with water. Cover the neck of the flask with a wire mesh. Okay, with the apparatus that we required are, we need a conical flask, water, wire mesh. Keep 2 or 3 freshly germinated bean seeds on the wire mesh. Okay, take a cardboard box which is open from one side. Keep the flask in the box in such a manner that the open side of the box faces light coming from a window. Okay, after 2 or 3 days, you will notice that the shoots bend towards light and roots away from the light. So this is the growth that is significant, that is based upon the growth of the plant body parts. Now turn the flask so that the shoots are away from the light and the roots are towards the light. Leave it undisturbed in this condition for a few days. Have the old parts of the shoot and the root changed directions. Yes, so obviously the shoot will be always growing towards the direction of the light, and the root will be growing always towards the direction of the soil or away from the direction of light. Okay, there are differences in the direction of the new growth. Yes, yeah, what can we conclude from this activity? We can conclude that so plant growth is directional, so depending upon the attraction towards a physical phenomenon, so in that direction the plant growth will be dependent. Okay, environmental triggers such as light, okay, gravity will change the direction that plant parts grow in. Even the water and chemicals also affect the growth of the plant body in the specific direction. So now underline these environmental triggers. And triggers means those that make something start. Okay, just like when you want to fire, you need to press the trigger, isn't it? So unless and until you click the trigger, it won't shoot. Okay, the same case, triggers are something that they make other event to start. Okay, now these are directional or tropic movements. So directional are also called as tropic movements, can be either towards the stimulus or away from the stimulus. Okay, this same type towards and away can be seen in case of animals also. Okay, there are some animals that move out of the soil during the daytime, and there are some animals like earthworms and other insects like cockroaches. They move away from the light, or they will be just wandering around only in the night times. Okay, they are called as a nocturnal. The animals that uh, move during the daytime are called as nocturnal, whereas the animals that move during the nighttime, move during the nighttime are called as nocturnal, and moving during the daytime are called as diurnal. Okay, so In two different kinds of phototrophic movement, shoots respond by bending towards light while roots respond by bending away from the light. So we can call this as positive phototrophic movement and negative phototrophic movement. Okay, positive phototrophic movement is towards the light and negative phototrophic movement is away from the light. Okay, so you observe the diagram here. The shoot is moving away from the soil, okay, or away from the gravity. So that is the reason it is said negatively geotropic. Okay, whereas in case of the root which is moving towards the soil or towards the gravity, we can say that root is positively geotrophic, and we can also say that shoot is positively phototrophic and root is negatively phototrophic. Okay, let me write here. Okay, shoot is positively phototrophic. Okay, and whereas the root is negatively phototrophic, whereas whereas the root is positively geotrophic and negatively phototrophic. Okay, did you understand the differences? Okay, now gets back. So in two different kinds of phototrophic movements, means light dependent directional movements are called as phototrophic movements. Shoots respond by bending towards the light while the roots respond while bending away from the light. Okay, how does this help the plant? Yeah, we will see. So plants show trophism in response. Okay, plants show trophism in response to other stimuli as well, not just light and soil. There are other stimuli where plants will be showing response. Okay, the roots of the plant always grow downwards while the shoots always usually grow upwards and away from the earth. So away from the earth, so it is called as negatively geotrophic. So this upward and downward growth of shoots and roots respectively in response to the pull of earth or gravity is obviously geotrophism. So what is geotrophism here? The movement or the growth or the response of the plant upward or downward growth of the shoots and roots respectively in response to the pull of the earth's gravity is called as geotrophism. If hydro means water, then movement of the plant or the directional growth of the plant towards water is called as hydrotrophism. And chemo is chemical. Okay, so towards the chemical, if the plant growth is dependent or towards the chemical, the plant growth is happening, and we are going to say it as chemotrophism. Okay, so chemotrophism is towards the chemical, and hydrotrophism is towards the water. Okay, positive hydrotrophism means towards the water, negative means away from water. Positive chemotrophism is towards the chemical and negative cheotrophism is away from the chemical, just like the contrasting things. So one is towards the left and another towards the right. Okay, can we think of examples of these kinds of directional growth movements? One example of chemotrophism is the growth of pollen tubes towards ovule. Okay, this thing you will be learning in the reproduction in organisms. Okay, in that, in reproduction in animals and in plants. In plant reproduction, we will be discussing here the growth of the pollen tube after the pollination and germination of the pollen grain on the stigma of the pistil of a flower. So now these pollen tubes will be growing towards the ovule. So about which we will learn more when we examine the reproduction processes of living organisms. Okay. Let us now once again think about how information is communicated in the bodies of multicellular organisms. The movement of the sensitive plant in response to touch is very quick. Okay, so if you can find a touch me not plant in your locality, you can test how quick the plant can lose its water and fold its leaf and droop down. Okay, the movement of sunflowers in response to day or night, on the other hand, is quite slow. growth related movement of plants will be even slower. Okay, so the stimuli driven or the growth independent movements will be faster, whereas the growth dependent movements will be slower. Okay, so even in animal bodies, there are carefully controlled directions to growth. Our arms and fingers grow in certain directions, not randomly or haphazardly, isn't it? So, controlled movements can be either slow or fast. It doesn't mean that controlled movements are highly coordinated or organized movements. They shall be always fast and rapid. Okay, they might be slow or fast depending upon the situation. Okay, in fast responses to stimuli are to be made, if fast responses to stimuli are to be made, information transfer must happen very quickly. For this, medium of transmission must be able to move rapidly. So for the case of rapid response and for the case of rapid action or the effect that needs to be taken, so what we need the medium of transmission must be able to move rapidly. So we had various types of cables, isn't it? So of the types of cables, wires or metallic wires or copper wires that show relatively fast conductivity of the electrical signals, isn't it? Whereas the optical fiber cables are much faster than these ordinary cables. So if you want more faster communication to transfer, we need more faster mode that we can transfer these or conduct these signals. Okay, now the medium of transmission must be able to move rapidly. So electrical impulses are an excellent means for this. Okay, so electricity, it can be just by the flow of electrons, it can be fast, isn't it? So electrical impulses are the excellent means for the fast transmission of the signals or the information. Okay, but there are limitations to the use of electrical impulses. Firstly, so let us see what are the limitations for the use of electrical impulses. Limitations means disadvantages. Okay, firstly, they will reach only those cells that are connected by nervous tissue. Okay, so one of the disadvantages, they can't be reached to all the cells of the body. They can be reached only to the tissues or cells that are connected by nerves only. Okay, not each and every cell in the animal body. Okay, secondly, once an electrical impulse is generated in a cell and transmitted, the cell will take some time to reset its mechanisms before it can generate and transmit a new impulse. So it needs a recovery time, or there will be a lag for the second impulse to be generated or conducted. So when we need a fast response or coordinated or complex response, when there are more than one signal to be conducted, if the first signal takes was conducted and the second signal takes time to conduction, there will be a delay in the action. Okay, so this is a disadvantage. Okay, think once, if this disadvantage occurs in case of reflex actions, what would happen? Yes, exactly, our fingers would have burnt already. In other words, cells cannot continually create and transmit electrical impulses. Okay, so as there is a time to reset, we can say this also in other terms, that cells, they cannot keep on continue these producing electrical signals. Okay, it is thus no wonder that most multicellular organisms use another means of communication between cells, namely chemical communication. So as there are some disadvantages associated with the electrical communication, so organisms, multicellular organisms also adapted it for chemical communication. If instead of generating an electrical impulse, stimulated cells release a chemical compound, this compound would diffuse all around the original cell. Okay, what happens? Stimulated cells will be releasing a chemical which is all around them. Okay, or will be released into the surrounding environment. If other cells are around, if other cells around have the means to detect this compound using special molecules on the surface, Okay, these special molecules are called as receptors. Okay, as we have receptors on our skin, olfactory or the tact or the gustatory receptors, and we also have chemoreceptors on the cell membranes of our cells. So these chemoreceptors will be sensing or binding with these chemicals, and on the basis of the binding they will be conducting the chemical impulses that they received. Okay, then they would be able to recognize information and even transmit it. So when they have special molecules on the surface, what would happen? They would be able to recognize the information. So as this information is recognized, even they can transmit the information or they can respond to the information that was received. Okay, this will be slower, of course, as chemicals has to be passed, isn't it? So this will be slower, of course, but it cannot potentially reach all cells, but it can potentially reach all cells of the body. Though it means though we had disadvantage with this chemical communication also, but what is the major benefit of this? It can able to reach all the cells of the body, regardless of the nervous connections, and it can be done steadily and persistently. So continuously and persistently we can able to make these chemical signals to communicate or to conduct. Okay, and whether a cell might have nervous connections or not, and these chemical communication can be conveyed to them and action can be brought. Okay, these compounds or hormones used by multicellular organisms for control and coordination show a great deal of diversity. There are several types of molecules. Okay, so these several types of molecules that are called as hormones on one side, they can be of various types. Okay, as we would expect. Okay, different plant hormones. Okay, different plant hormones. So what are the roles of plant hormones? Help to coordinate growth. Okay, help to coordinate growth and develop and responses to the help to coordinate the growth, and they help in the development of the plant body and responses to the environment. Okay, so these plant hormones, these are called as phytohormones. Okay, so these phytohormones are of five types. Okay, we had auxins, cytokinins, gibberellins, ethylene, and ascorbic acid. Okay, so these are the five types of phytohormones. And auxins and cytokinins, these two hormones will play a major role in the growth of the shoot and root of the plant body. Okay, and gibberellins, it has a special capacity that it can make the plant shoot to lengthen, or it can make it to grow in length. And these ethylene, which is an gaseous phytohormone or plant hormone, it helps in the fruit ripening. Okay, let me make a note here. So make a note there, phytohormones. Okay, as you will be studying them in your higher classes, not to worry. So phytohormones, first one are auxins. Okay, and second one cytokinins. Okay, and third one is gibberellin. Okay, gibberellins. And the fourth one is ascorbic acid, or simply called as ABC. Okay, see. Okay, and then the fifth one is ethylene. So this is not ascorbic acid, this is abscisic acid. Abscisic acid. Ascorbic acid is vitamin C. I'm sorry, it is abscisic acid. Okay, abscisic acid. Okay, and then okay, we had the fifth one is ethylene. Okay, ethylene is the only uh, gaseous phytohormone. Okay, and this helps in fruit ripening. Okay, this helps in the fruit ripening. Okay, auxin cytokinins, they are involved in the growth of the root and shoot of the plant. Okay, okay, so these are this is about phytohormones. Okay, now, and these phytohormones, they help in coordinate growth and development and responses to the environment. They are synthesized at places away from where they act and simply diffuse to the area of action. Okay, just like the movements in the plant body or the translocation from the site of production is different, and the site of action is also different. So from the site of production to the site of action, they need to diffuse, or they need to transport. Okay, let us take an example that we have worked with earlier, activity 7.2. When growing plants detect light, a hormone called auxin, okay, so here it was mentioned, a hormone called auxin synthesized at the shoot tip helps the cells to grow longer. Okay, helps the cells to grow longer. When the light is coming from one side of the plant, auxin diffuses towards the shady side of the shoot. This concentration of auxin stimulates the cell to grow longer on the side of the shoot which is away from the light. Thus the plant appears to bend towards the light. So this is why a plant bends towards the light. So okay, another example of plant hormones are gibberellins. Okay, they are called as gibberellins, which like auxins help in the growth of the stem. Okay, gibberellins also help in the growth of the stem. Cytokinins promote cell division. It is natural then that they are present in greater concentration in the areas of rapid cell division such as fruits and seeds. Okay, as the cytokines, they help in the cell division, they are present in much larger concentrations in the areas of rapid cell division, like the fruits, cells in the fruits and seeds, and even uh, meristematic cells also. Okay, these are examples of plant hormones that help in promoting growth. Okay, so these are growth promoting plant hormones, means that help the plant body to grow. Okay, so that's the reason they are called as growth promoting. But plants also need signals to stop growing. So plant, they doesn't keep on growing as long as they can and as fast as they can, isn't it? They need some regulation, and they need some signals to stop their growing when they are need. Okay, so abscisic acid. Okay, so abscisic, okay, as in growth promoting, growth inhibiting. Abscisic acid is one of the hormones which inhibits growth. Okay, its effect is including wilting of leaves. So what is the function of abscisic acid? It is growth inhibiting, and leaves wilting and falling of the leaves is the function of abscisic acid. And even when fruits are dry, or when the fruits are ripen, so what happens, this abscisic acid, they helps in the dropping down of the fruits from the plant body. Okay, so this is about the coordination in plants. So let us go through these in text questions. So what are plant hormones? So plant hormones are the chemicals that regulate, okay, the growth of the plant body, and they help in the development of the plant body. Okay, so these are the functions of plant hormones. Okay, and they are produced from one location, and their action might be some other location in the plant body. How is the movement of leaves of the sensitive plant different from the movement of the shoot towards light? Okay, so in the case of sensitive plant, the movement is growth independent. Okay, whereas in the case of shoot towards light, it is growth dependent. So the shoot will be growing towards the light, isn't it? It is because of the auxin, which is a plant hormone, which will be dividing the cells rapidly in the shady region. Okay, okay, so that's the major difference. One is growth independent and another one is growth dependent. Okay, give an example of a plant hormone that promotes growth. So we had three plant hormones that promotes growth. One is auxin, okay, another one is cytokinin, and gibberellins. Okay, so these are the growth promoting hormones. Okay, How do auxins promote the growth of a tendril around a support? So commonly when the cells of the tendril, when they come in contact with an hard surface or support, so these auxins, they help in the rapid cell division and growth of this tendril. So due to the direction of the light, what happens, the tendril will be curling around the support. So this is how a spring like curling of the tendril will be seen around the support of the plant. So now fifth one, design the experiment to demonstrate hydrotrophism. So you can just make we can design in this way. So okay, consider this is an box. So now here is your plant. Okay, so here is our plant. Okay, though it's not looking like a plant, consider that. Okay, so these are the roots of the plant, and this entire surface of the soil, if you make it dry and just put some water here, and obviously these roots will be growing towards this water, because plant need water to photosynthesize, isn't it? So these roots will be growing towards the water for its purposes. So now this is one of the way that we can demonstrate hydrotrophism in case of plants. Okay, so that's all for this video, and in the next video we will discuss about chemical coordination in animals, so with the help of various hormones and glands that are present in our body, that is endocrine system. Okay, go through the description box for any other video links.